was hoping to avoid the RFID question. It's a research project. I don't want to be a poster child for RFIDs, but if you have specific questions, please come up and ask. It's right here. This is Edin. Edin runs one of the best interior design stores in Stockholm, Dusty Deco. He also has a Tictail, home to independent brands from all over the world. Tictail caters to entrepreneurs like Edin, a new generation of entrepreneurs. On a mission to empower small businesses to become successful online, we made it easier than ever before to start an online store, from a desktop computer or from your phone. But Tictail is not only about helping you getting started. In fact, the longest and the hardest part is what comes next, running and growing your online business. For most of the store owners on Tictail, this is probably their first online store. They probably haven't bought ads before. They probably haven't worked with conversion rates or funnels. Most likely haven't worked with big data. And these are smart and ambitious people. The beautiful products they've designed, manufactured, and produced is a testament to that. It's simply that they've either never needed to before, or whenever they did, it was presented to them as something complex, something with high barriers of entry. A key part of Tictail is what we call the to-do feed, and it's intended to solve just that. It's an automated marketing assistant that gives you tailored advice on how to improve your store. When you start your store, it acts as the onboarding, helping you set up the basic things around your store, like setting your return policy, adding your first product, setting your tax settings. And once you launched it, it starts aggregating data about your store, your customer, and your visitors, and gives you tailored advice on how to improve your online store. It could be anything like reaching back to loyal customers and try to re-engage them, to setting up a full-blown marketing campaign on Facebook, all from the same interface. And while innovations like the to-do feed or treating mobile as a first-class citizen has been important tools for our merchants, they've been critical for Tictail as a company. In just 3 years, we've grown to become the home of over 100,000 online stores, selling over 2 million unique products, either directly through their own online storefronts or in the Tictail marketplace. And there are two things that are significant about that number. One is that we've managed to get where we are without any paid user acquisition. Tictail's growth so far has been entirely organic. Tictail has spread from one store to the other. Second is that all of this has happened in a highly competitive space. When we launched Tictail in 2012, the companies that we're most commonly compared with today had already been around 6 to 7 years. And a reasonable way of looking at that number is that they were 6 to 7 years ahead of us. They already had brand recognition, they had paying customers, perhaps they were already planning their IPOs. Another way of looking at the same numbers is to say that we were 6 to 7 years ahead of them. We had no luggage. We could build an e-commerce platform for today, for how we use technology today. And we've seen this transition before, where companies have failed to adapt quick enough to technological changes, and that has created room for other players in the space. And one of my favorite examples is Kodak, a highly innovative company who misidentified the importance of digital photography. And that gave room to companies such as Flickr to grow and exist. But even young companies such as Flickr can fail to identify the importance of new technology. And in Flickr's case, failing to identify how important mobile and social was created room for other players, such as Instagram. And this is not really news anymore. We've all seen the disruption brought by mobile. Today, 56% of all orders on Tictail are made from a mobile device. We expect that number to be close to 80% by the end of next year. But that won't happen because mobile disrupting desktop. It will happen because of disruptions happening within mobile. And if we look at mobile, we realize there's a totally different beast. In the desktop world, we had to seek out the social platforms to build our social graphs and so on. On mobile, the OS is the social platform. You don't need to build a new social graph for every service you connect to. You have one right in your phone. It's your contact list. You simply give the app access to that list. And also the phone is much more contextually aware of what you do and where you are. You no longer need to type in your address to share it with people. You simply give your phone permission to do so for you. And the push-pull dynamics are also entirely changed. In the desktop world, we had to seek out to all the services we're connected to see if something interesting had happened. In the mobile world, we expect our phone to tell us when something interesting has happened. And what's fascinating with where we are in mobile right now is that essentially every native icon on your phone has proven to be an opportunity for innovation. And most recently, one particular icon has started to gain a lot of traction, and that is messaging. And there are several reasons for this hype. One is obviously the monstrous growth of established messaging platforms, with WhatsApp boasting 900 million monthly active users with a 60% year-over-year growth. But most importantly, users seem to love messaging. Despite its shortcomings when it comes to input, consuming messages is quite convenient. You can read them right on your lock screen. Compared to voicemail, you can read them over and over again. And perhaps, thanks to its shortcomings as an input mechanism, messages are usually short and informal. It's also on a device that we always carry with us. So messaging benefits from being discrete. Like just during this presentation, I'm certain a lot of people already have used one or more messaging applications to communicate with others. But as far as I can tell, no one has been speaking on the phone yet. Messaging is also asynchronous. Not all parties need to be present at the same time. You can take your time to think through your answer. Consider whether you're actually contributing to the conversation. Are you answering the right question? And messaging is surprisingly rich and expressive. It's not just text. We can attach photos, videos, locations. With a single tap of an emoji, we can share an emotion that might have been hard to express over voice even. And this is probably not news for all of you. You probably already use messaging extensively with your close relations. We use messaging daily with our friends, family, coworkers. We use it in one-on-one conversation. We use it in group chats. But it's what's happening right now in messaging that is really, really exciting. We're using messaging to connect with everything else. And primarily, we're starting to use messaging to communicate with businesses. And I think the best example of this is the Chinese messaging platform WeChat, where social, in the context of your close relations, is just a feature. It's not the focus. So right next to chat, in the same UI, you can order your breakfast, hail a cab, or book a doctor's appointment. And increasingly, we're seeing services where you communicate with human assistants only through messaging, like Operator or Magic, where a human assistant can perform complex tasks, like ordering, say, flowers to your friend's birthday for next week, based on some small preferences you typed in. And increasingly, these human assistants are being supported by AI tools. And probably Facebook's M Assistant is the best example of this so far. We're communicating with a human who has a set of AI tools helping them do jobs better, faster. And eventually, the role of the AI tools will simply just increase. But we're not quite there with fully operated AI assistants. So what does all of this mean for small to medium-sized businesses? Well, we have to consider how different the world for small businesses is today versus, say, 10 to 15 years ago. Today, when you launch an online store, you are global from day one. You are by default competing with every other business online. So as a small business owner, you have to fully utilize the few advantages that you have at hand. And two of those are storytelling and building relationships with every customer that you have. One of the best parts of working at Tictail is that you get a chance to talk with a lot of entrepreneurs. You get a chance to hear their story. Why are they doing what they're doing? You get a chance to hear the story about their products. What's the purpose of this product? And suddenly, it's no longer just an image on a screen. That store has a meaning. That product has a purpose. And we thought, what if we could enable all of our merchants to build the same type of relationships with all of their customers? And what better medium to build that on top of than messaging? A format that our store owners are familiar with, a format that their customers are familiar with. So just 3 weeks ago, we launched a new part of our product that we call Tictail Talk. At its core, it's a messaging platform that allows store owners and customers to talk with each other. But it's not just text. We wanted to make sure that you could use rich objects that were relevant in the conversations. So from a customer's perspective, if you have a question about a specific product, you can attach it right into the message. We also wanted to give the merchant tools. So merchants can use discounts and other objects to encourage a purchase. And not all actions have to be explicitly typed into the conversation. Some actions that you perform in the stores make sense to be included in this dialogue as well. So when a customer buys something on a Tictail store, that is automatically injected into the conversation. And when a store owner starts managing that order, ships it, those are also rich cards in this conversation. So it's not just about the messages at hand. This is a perfect log of your entire relationship with that customer or with that store. So as a customer, you can come back, look at past orders you've done, refer back to them. And as a merchant, you can see what product engaged this customer to actually get in touch. Did we send them a discount to encourage them to actually perform this purchase or not? We believe that this will bring our store owners much closer to their customers. But we also wanted to come closer to our store owners. So just last week, we launched a feature on top of Tictail Talk. We enabled for all of our stores to communicate directly with us using the same chat UI, including the same rich objects. They can communicate directly with our customer support. They can ask specific questions about feedback for their store. They can include specific objects and ask questions about those, like, is this good enough for SEO? Or is this image clear enough? We believe the future of Talk holds a lot of opportunities. And while this is the end of my presentation, I believe this is just the beginning of the role messaging will play for businesses who want to establish a closer relationship with their customers. And I'd be happy to talk more about that during the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Siavash. Now, obviously, Wired agrees with you. We put Mark Zuckerberg on the cover of our November issue, which was always about Facebook Messenger and how that's sort of mutating perhaps more towards a WeChat type of model.
Right.
What would you, I mean, obviously, this is a room of retailers and those in the retail ecosystem. What would be your sort of recommendations? Are there ways to trial some of this sort of chat that they can test?
Right.
What would you do in their shoes?
So I used to live in Shanghai in 2008. I could order pizza through MSN Messenger to my apartment. And that created a bond between us and the pizza store. We actually had conversations. And now we're seeing this happening in Europe. So Starbucks has already started experimenting with messaging to engage their user base. And as a business owner today, well, you have several options. One is to use one of the many chat platforms. And increasingly, they're getting support to actually support businesses. Facebook is probably the leading one in Europe. But if you have a fully used app, like a top-ranking app, certainly look into including messaging into in some way increase the relationship you have with your customers. Or if you're an online retailer, set up a Tictail store.
And just on that sort of messaging platform, I mean, the ecosystem that provides, so the mapping that you can track items being delivered, I don't know if that happened with your MSN Messenger, I'm assuming not in 2008 in Shanghai, but you know, the potential for these platforms is huge. I mean, we know that from looking at what WeChat already does. Is that what you're looking to build into the Tictail Talk?
So what we wanted to do was to provide our users a way of essentially telling their story, because we believe that storytelling is so important for them in order to actually get customers. The other was that we wanted to give them a CRM system where they could manage the entire history of all users, preferably in a format that they were familiar with. So that's how Talk started. But long term, we believe that not all conversations will be going through Talk.
Yeah.
Potentially, we will connect into other messaging platforms. WeChat, Facebook M, who knows? But the same goes for all of you. I assume you can connect to Facebook by now.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thanks.